flood ripped El Palmar apart in one black afternoon, and by nightfall a rooster rode a floating door past houses packed with mud. The Orinoco kept shoving brown water through the carpentry village, swallowing workbenches, family photos, mattresses, and every promise the Márquez family thought was safe. When the water finally backed away, it left silence, broken walls, dead refrigerators, and a yard striped with sludge like the village had been dragged through ash. The Márquez family stood barefoot in the ruin, holding 3 soot-stained aluminum gutters, a cracked sewing machine, and the ridiculous miracle of one stubborn rooster. Their house no longer felt like a home, just a soaked skeleton leaning under the sky, with clothes hanging from nails like abandoned flags. 12-year-old Leah pulled carnival sailcloth from a tangle of debris, its red and yellow fabric still blazing against the gray wreckage like defiance. Her father, Tomás, dug splintered boards from the mud with carpenter hands that had built doors for half the village and now owned none. Her mother, Alma, rinsed school notebooks in a basin of murky water, turning each page carefully as if knowledge itself might still be saved. Hunger arrived fast, practical, and unsentimental, creeping into the kitchen first, then the voice, then the way everyone stared too long at empty pots. The family made their first decision before they had dry shoes, laying every surviving object on a blanket and asking what could earn tomorrow. The answer looked almost insulting. A damaged sewing machine, scraps of bright sailcloth, bent nails, gutters, and skills nobody could wash away. Leah cleaned the sewing machine with an old toothbrush and cooking oil, picking grit from its gears like a watchmaker rescuing time. She tested the pedal on a brick, then stitched 2 torn sacks together, proving the machine still had one stubborn heartbeat left. Around her, children in El Palmar wandered in oversized, mud-stiff clothes because school had reopened before wardrobes had recovered. Leah noticed what adults were missing. Families needed uniforms faster than they needed pretty clothes because classrooms were the first bridge back to normal. She cut the carnival sailcloth into measured panels on a church pew dragged into the yard, using a charcoal nub to mark sleeves. The fabric was never meant for uniforms, but she doubled the seams, reinforced the elbows, and lined collars with salvaged cotton so they could survive hard use. Every mistake cost material they could not replace, so she pinned paper patterns made from flattened flour bags before touching the scissors. Her first jackets looked strange, bright, and slightly crooked, but they were dry, sturdy, and wearable, which mattered more than elegance in a flooded village. Tomás saw people needed a place to trade before they needed a perfect house, so he stopped mourning walls and started assembling shelter. A half-collapsed chapel still had a standing nave, and under its cracked saints and leaking roof, he raised tables from ruined doors and pews. He fed candles into cleaned bottles, lined the marketplace with the salvaged aluminum gutters, and turned them into channels that carried rainwater away from the floor. By dusk, the chapel glowed like a handmade harbor, tiny flames trembling over cassava, nails, soap, thread, and hope arranged on rough wood. Alma understood that money was scarce, but skills still moved value, so she built a barter notebook from dried notebook pages. She offered reading lessons, arithmetic drills, and letter-writing help to neighbors who could pay with cassava, eggs, candles, or construction scraps. Every exchange was recorded carefully, because disaster becomes chaos fastest when people stop counting what still works. One woman paid for 2 weeks of lessons with a sack of sweet potatoes and 6 usable nails pulled from her roof beams. A fisherman traded cracked buckets and a spool of fishing line after Alma helped his daughter practice multiplication tables under candlelight. The family stopped asking what they had lost and began asking a harder, more useful question: what can each of us produce by sunset? That question changed their posture first, then their schedule, then the way neighbors started stepping through the chapel door with purpose instead of pity. Leah worked mornings taking measurements with a string and a pencil stub, writing chest sizes on torn cardboard tags tied to shirt pieces. Tomás worked afternoons reinforcing stalls, drying wood by a brick stove, and shaping display hooks from salvaged wire and bent spoons. Alma worked evenings teaching by lantern, then calculating trades so nobody felt cheated and everyone felt invited to return tomorrow. They also set one rule that kept despair from becoming the boss: Every day had to produce one visible improvement, no matter how small. Some days, the improvement was a patched roof corner or 3 finished cuffs laid neatly on a shelf made from orange crates. Some days, it was less dramatic, like sorting nails by length into jars, drying beans on window screens, or cleaning 1 square meter of floor. Visible progress mattered because damaged minds heal slowly, and seeing proof beats waiting for motivation to magically arrive. The rooster, filthy and absurdly proud, strutted through the chapel market every morning, becoming an accidental mascot for survival nobody planned. Children laughed when he perched on a stall of cassava and thread, and that laughter brought adults who had forgotten how relief sounds. Then came the jacket that changed everything. Leah stayed up stitching by a lamp made from cooking oil and braided cloth, finishing a navy school jacket with yellow lining hidden inside. At sunrise, a trucker passing through town stopped at the chapel to buy coffee, saw the jacket hanging from a broken crucifix, and asked the price. He paid cash, real bills folded into Alma's trembling hand, then ordered 2 more for his nieces in a neighboring village. Tomás stared at the money like it might evaporate, because after disaster, hope often feels less believable than damage. But cash meant thread, needles, flour, and transport meant their work could travel farther than the floodline. The family used that first sale with discipline instead of celebration, buying only inputs that could create more value by next week. They bought sturdy thread, secondhand scissors, lamp oil, and a roll of plain fabric to mix with the bright sailcloth. Tomás used extra nails and the remaining gutters to build a covered rack outside the chapel, where finished clothes could dry during sudden rain. Alma copied a simple ledger template onto cardboard and began tracking orders, inventory, barter credits, and which goods sold fastest after dusk. Those records revealed something powerful. People bought necessities first, but they returned for dignity when necessities were met. So Leah added careful details to every uniform: a straight hem, a secure pocket, a hidden strip of bright lining only the wearer knew was there. That tiny private beauty mattered because poverty strips choice first, then personality, and people are starved by both. Soon the chapel market became more than a place to exchange goods. It became a place to recover standards. Neighbors began presenting cleaner produce, better repairs, more honest measures, because dignity is contagious when someone demonstrates it in public. A mason offered to fix 1 chapel wall in exchange for uniforms for his twins and evening literacy help for his wife. A baker contributed stale bread for anyone working cleanup crews, and in return, Tomás built him shelving from salvaged window frames. Little by little, El Palmar stopped looking like a village waiting to be rescued and started looking like a village rehearsing its comeback. The Márquez family still slept under a patched roof and still worried whenever rain whispered against metal at night. Fear did not disappear. They simply stopped giving it all the seating in the room. Leah learned that skill becomes powerful when tied to a specific urgent need instead of a vague dream about success. Tomás learned that when people lose private space, they need shared space even more, because recovery speeds up where effort becomes visible. Alma learned that bartering works best when every trade is written down, expectations are clear, and respect is priced into the exchange. Their strategy was not glamorous, but it was repeatable. Inventory what remains, solve immediate problems, track every exchange, and create one visible win each day. Months later, when the family hung their first row of finished uniforms beside work aprons and patched school bags, the chapel looked almost ceremonial. The shelves held cassava, candles, notebooks, nails, and folded jackets, each object representing labor rescued from despair and redirected toward use. People no longer came only to survive the week. They came to place orders, offer trades, share leads, and imagine the next season. And the Márquez family finally understood the real structure they were rebuilding was not timber, plaster, or roofing sheets. They were rebuilding the feeling that your work still counts, your hands still matter, and your children deserve to stand in daylight unashamed. If your own life feels washed out, start like they did by listing what survived, even if the list looks too small to save you. Turn one skill toward one urgent need near you, measure the result honestly, and build again tomorrow before doubt gets there first.